Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we start, I just want to say a little prayer to whatever's out there.
Okay.
That we just guide us into the most authentic versions of ourself, so that we might explore some topics or say some things that could potentially contribute to the people of the world and something they're going through, and give them permission to have the same experience.
Now, is this a prayer that you say before things like this, before shows, before you run a men's group? Do you do a prayer like that?
I do.
Okay.
I try and pray almost every hour.
All right. And what's the difference between how you're praying and how, say, Catholic, a Christian, whatever is praying?
The difference, I
Is
think,
there a difference?
Well, I'm not religious whatsoever, and I
Right.
kind of resist it. I but I don't think it's different. My experience with prayer is that when I consistently, there's, first of all, prayer is talking to the Creator, God. I just call it
The
God.
universe.
To universe.
God.
Let's call it the universe. Let's
Yeah.
call it universe. Prayer is talking to. Meditation is listening back.
Ooh.
You know what I
is
mean?
So simplified, isn't it?
So it's just
great.
so I'm talking, and then I meditate twice a day to listen.
Okay.
But what I noticed, so the difference is not much, but what I've noticed is that my prayers are not really, don't have any sustenance if it's coming from my head.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes from my heart, like, something magical happens, which means I'm just saying, okay, here's the other difference. So a lot of people, I'm not trying to make anybody bad, but religious is like, God, make my life good. Make these things better. It's like, that's not...
Let me win this heat. Send me a wave to win this heat. Send me money.
That is not my prayer. My
Yeah.
prayer is, I will do the action. I will do the thing in the 3D world. Help me have insight. Put situations in front of me that challenge me or show
Right.
me. And what happened is that I started seeing things. Like, I was like, when I first started doing emotional intelligence work, I would start praying, like, I would say God, but like, God, like, help me.
Why do you pause when you say God? Because there's a connotation that
Yeah.
makes you religious.
Exactly. I don't know
and
what to say.
people have a lot of times either, oh, awesome, you're
Christian.
one of
You're
us or
this.
whatever,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like myself, and I think like you, the second an organized religion comes in, you're like, ooh,
Oh,
I don't know.
so I'm just like,
So that's why you are just slightly reticent to say
Yeah.
God or Creator.
Right. So when I first started, I would say, "Oh, great mystery," or "Universe,"
yes,
or
yes,
"Creator," and then
yeah.
I have these guides. It's just to get really weird. Spirit guides. We all have them. They're not lost. We are.
Yeah.
Once I stopped being lost and started going, well, maybe this is out there, I started communicating with these things on the other side.
Yeah.
And that helped me, help guide me and confirm that they were there through messages, through numbers, through feelings. I'd start crying. I would hear them. They'd be like, we're here. You know what they say the most? Guess what they say the most?
What?
Quit fucking stressing out.
Yeah.
They're like, just
Don't
chill.
worry
They're
about
just
it.
like, chill.
There's a difference between worry and praying.
Dude.
Worrying and praying is different.
100%. They're like, just chill. Like, you're in this reality that you can't fathom. Like the more you try and figure it out, you know what they told me once? They said, I remember, they're like, have you ever seen a little kid try and teach himself how to tie a shoe? And you're like, oh, isn't that cute? That's the same thing God's saying to you when you try and figure out what it is.
Yeah.
You're just like, just drop it. Just enjoy it and be in and trust. The word is faith and trust in that we live in this reality that's dualistic, which means this reality was created with hot and cold, and love and hate, and fear and courage.
Yeah.
And the more we're willing to accept all of those things, the more we get to experience them in their grandness.
Right.
I can't be in my courage fully unless I'm willing to acknowledge that I'm scared.
Right.
I can't be in my love until I realize what I'm capable in with my hate. It's a different level of love. There's a cool quote by Carl Jung. Your a tree can only expand up to heaven as far as his roots are willing to go down to hell. Yeah. Okay, start the cameras.
That was started.
You
That was it.
started
That was
with
the
a
start.
edit.
No.
We don't believe in God. We don't pray.
I think that's a great way to start, because there is a stigma around the word prayer.
Right.
There is a stigma around the word God, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah.
Because I don't fault anybody for their beliefs, but the simplicity, right? The simple act, closing your eyes and just opening, that's basically a way of, like, it's funny, by closing your eyes, you're opening something up, right? Close your eyes, quick prayer, message, a call to action, whatever it is something that you're recommending that I feel like, I mean, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I'm taking it.
Right.
Because, like, what a lot of these things, right? A lot of spiritual work, a lot of working on yourself, a lot of, quote, doing the work, is these simple things that I think a lot of people at first might think just sounds silly. Well, what's that going to do? Mm-hmm. Well, what's it going to, is it going to hurt you to take 15 seconds and just close your eyes and say, you know, for me this morning, I went to the dentist. I love my dentist. She's awesome. Great. It's an awesome place. The act of going to the dentist, the act of having someone scratching your teeth and drilling in the water and the pain is just, it's the worst. It's one of my worst things, yes. Right? But had I, at the end of it, you know, I kind of turned around and I said, look, I'm grateful to be able to be in this nice dentist office. My teeth are great. Everything's fine. I'm taken care of, you know, whatever. But if I just had that 15 seconds, 5 seconds right before the realization and said, look, you're lucky to be at this dentist office right now. You're lucky that you have your teeth. You're lucky that you're in Encinitas and you have access to this, because there's so many people in the world that don't.
Right.
If I would have done that, I think my experience would have been better.
Right.
So I think that's a good jump off spot for
it's great.
What we're going to talk about.
And there's even, I mean, I've been told there's also, like, everything's a prayer,
yeah.
Whether you know it or not. Like, today's going to suck. That's a prayer.
The
like,
reverse prayer.
I don't look as the creator or God as something separate than me. It is I am a fractal of it.
Okay.
I am a piece of it. There's this saying, the Bhagavad Gita. It's like Bhagavad Gita is this old spiritual script. People think the Bible's old. Like, there's all these old scriptures. And the thing it talks about is, like, the one, like, so initially God, the creator, you know, and then, became many, mm-hmm. us, all of these realities, these planets, all these systems, aliens, everything became many in order to have the experience of becoming one again.
Right.
So essentially it's like an agreement I have as fractaling on, and the way the oneness is just love. It's like, God, in my opinion, I am part of this thing. It's like, you know, the most authentic feeling when you have love, like that feeling of love, you're like, whoa, that's the core.
Yeah.
The core. And you see a baby come in and it's like that love. So in order to experience, if I was only love, I would have to create something opposite of me in order to experience that love, or else I'm just that.
Yeah.
Right. So I am part of this thing. But also another thing that I have to do is also realize that I'm in this human form. Like, okay, I always like to say this. Can you build a tree?
No.
Okay.
I can plant one.
Okay, but what's the intelligence? You could put an acorn in the water. I mean, you could put an acorn in the ground, put water on it and sun, and it will grow.
Yeah.
But you're not.
I didn't build that.
You didn't build that. Something did. So it's like this humility of like, okay, and maybe I'm not supposed to know. We already talked about it. But whatever it is, yeah. All I know is when I don't, and again, I'll say it one more time, I'm not, that thing's not lost. I am. When I align and go, okay, dude, I can't build a tree. When I control my own life without this thing, I end up like in a drug rehab detox. You know, like when I'm my best thinking, I end up in shitty situations. And then when I just align and go, hey, and they call it faith, you know, asking you shall receive. It's just like, hey, so what happened for me is I start, this guy told me once, he goes, don't make it all freaking like a big event. talk all day long like it's your friend, like this energy is your friend. And then I started to get further into it and thinking about, like, it's not this guy in the sky. It is a reflective reality of what I'm feeling, right? And then I started to do more research on, wow, okay, we live in this matrix, whatever it is. I'm not trying to figure it out, but it'd be a lot better to be connected to the thing that created the matrix.
Right. I get it.
And a good analogy.
I sort of understand most of what you just said.
Troy, is that too deep? Yeah, I don't know.
You know, I think this is a great jump off spot, even though we're now halfway through the podcast. That you're deep into it. I'm entry level. I'm top level top layer, let's say. But just the idea of talking to someone, talking to the universe, you're talking to yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that is a great segue to talk about and I mean, if I bring this up and you don't want to talk about it, let me know. But you and I, off camera, out in the world, have been talking a lot about a big life happening that's happening to you. And this is something that eventually happens to most people on planet Earth. I mean, it's how we all got here. Before we knew what was going on, this was happening to our parents, our grandparents, our great, everybody went through it. And you're about to go through it. Is this something you'd like to talk about on the Help podcast?
Yes.
It is.
H37P.
Okay. Boom. Okay, well.
What is it
I just teed you up. So this is something that I think a lot of people, most people on planet Earth, some people don't, can't, won't, but most people have children. They have babies. They conceive a child. And that's something that you did recently. And this is something that I've seen you in your best state in life, which I think the past 10 years or 5 years has been where you're at. You're a king of your domain. You're a king of yourself. You're a king of your mind, your spirituality. And then you got this news.
Oh my God.
And it rocked your ass.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been pretty cool to watch the process, because when it happened to me twice, you know, it was just kind of something I was ready, and it was pretty simple for me, to be honest. It was like, okay, this is happening, ready for it, you know, job, house, whatever. Everything was kind of set up. I was ready. It was after that I started to struggle a little bit of like, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. But you're in the area of, let's start with even before you found out that your beautiful wife was pregnant. No, I don't know if it was your wife at the time, but when you found out, when you found out, let's even go before that. When you found out, let's go to, in your mind, what has stopped you so many times before, even with, you know, your wife or it just in your life, being open to having kids? What scared you so bad about that idea of having a baby?
Losing my freedom.
Simple answer.
I don't want to grow up.
Yeah.
I love my, I don't want to answer to anybody.
I think that's what most people
ever. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, this is great. So, and then I want to just name, I don't want to make this about me and my kid. There is a reason why we should talk about this, because my process surrounding this is a process people are going through in different areas of their life.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, so the
a big life-changing happening.
Yeah. And it really comes down to being able to speak my truth.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, the question is, I've never done it before, because I'm like, screw that. I even told my wife when we first met, I'm not getting married, I'm not having a kid. You know what I mean? It's just it. And she's like, okay. And then I'm like, you played me, didn't you? You knew. Yeah. I think there's a part of me that wanted it. I just was defended from, okay, I know what it takes. Like in the last 10 years, I've changed my life, and I show up I'm not perfect. I've made my mistakes, but I show up to the things I'm going to do the best. And so I know I have a roundabout idea of what it takes to be a dad. And I don't want to be a dad like my dad. My dad's, I love you, I love him, all of that. But I know that if I do this, I'm all in. And I'm going to be like zoomed in, and I know what that takes.
Yeah.
So before that happens, I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I know what that takes. So
you're in a band, you like to surf, you like to meditate, you like to disappear for a day or two and do your own thing.
Exactly. I want to go
Work,
surf. I want to
men's groups,
whatever.
podcasts.
Start a company,
You got a lot of
try and
shit going
figure it
on.
out. A lot of stuff, and I love it. The last thing I need is a little baby. So what happens is we're having this baby, and I just want to name this in the beginning. I love my wife. I love her too. Yeah, I love her. She is so amazing. She is literally she's my reward for doing work on myself, and she knows I have having this process, and so that's good. And I love my baby that's in the stomach. Okay, there's a wholeness to things we process. Okay, let's get all the good things out of the way.
Yeah.
Like this is like 90% of me is I love it. I'm going to do good.
I'm excited.
I know that I'm going to be a dad. If I was 55 years old and look back and I was a non-dad, I'd be like, dude, I blew it. I understand all that. So all the positivity is there. And I want to be fully in those positive things with my heart open. And the one thing I've learned about myself in the last 10 years and the human consciousness and psycho, like the psyche, is that we always hold back some things. And if we hold something back, we will never be fully present in the other things that we're doing.
Okay.
Right? So for me, I'm like, what is happening right now? There's something like, I'm not fully in with having this kid.
Go back. Okay. Go back. Pre-kid, you're like, I don't want it.
No.
I'm busy.
Good.
I love my life. I don't want to change anything. I'm a stubborn ass 40-something-year-old.
Yeah.
It happens. She's pregnant.
Yeah.
What was your first thought? And you can, like,
fuck.
it's scary.
Fuck. No, I was like, fuck.
What did I do?
I was like, what? No, we're not. Like, how do we let's go into like not having it type things. And I'm like, no. Okay, so there's a movie called Gravity with George Clooney or whatever. They're the astronauts or whatever.
Yeah.
And like he was like the most baddest ass masculine dude. And like when she told me, my whole organism shattered into a million pieces. I just fractaled out. I was like, oh my God. And then I was just like, I pulled in my George Clooney and just sucked it all back together. And I'm like, I didn't tell her that. I just I'm like, we got it. It's on. You know what I mean? There's something about masculinity in a relationship where it's like, I need to process some of my shit outside and bring it and hold the feminine.
Okay, so how did you bring it all together? I know
I spun around in the bedroom. Like I was like, and she was
physically,
like, physically spun around. I was
emotionally.
Like, and then I was like, we got it. Just like that.
Okay.
And I got to tell a funny thing too. That one of the things leading up to us, me and my wife were sitting on our king size bed with TV trays, watching like Friends.
Is this going to be TMI for?
No, eating food. And she looks over at me and she's like, I just had a vision of us being 60 years old, sitting here on the bed with we need to have a kid. You know what I mean? Like, so
right.
part of the reason yes. Okay. So that's the answer to that question.
Right.
I was like, and then,
so pretty immediately you pulled yourself together. But keeping yourself together in that process at first is tough because your partner starts to get sick emotionally. Most of the time they get a little bit sick. They emotionally start changing, but there's no physical evidence. It's a faith thing, right? I mean, it's different than faith in the universe or whatever. It's like, this is happening. You can't see it yet. You know it's happening. There are subtle things changing. So most of it is in your own mind.
Right.
So what are you thinking in the first after the big, the explosion and the put back together? Okay, then I see your roller coaster. I'm going to be horrible at this. What am I doing?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm ready for this. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
What was the first kind of couple of weeks, months like?
And like you're saying, not one time did I say I'm going to be horrible at this. It's that I know I'm going to be good at it and I know what it takes. So I was like I was dipping into that. I'm trying to hold it like, I was oscillate between like this sucks. I don't want this. I don't like this, whatever, in my own way. And I'm telling my wife will hold she understands shadow. She understands that 5%. And then she understands that if I don't express that 5%, like she doesn't take it as an offensive thing.
Yeah.
She's like, of course so it's like, yeah, so I'm just oscillating. I'm thinking about money. I'm thinking about time. I'm thinking about all these things. And it's hard for me to think about the good things, which leads me to this process, because if I just stopped, and I do therapy weekly, and my therapist is like, well, let's explore the part of you that doesn't want to have this kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I was like, thank God for him, because society doesn't want to hear that. You're bad. Like, and I started thinking about again, everybody, all 50 people out there listening to this.
There's 50? Oh, gosh.
25, 50.
You better start sounding
Listen,
smart.
this is the same thing. Whether you're in a relationship and you're like, I'm pretty happy in here, but I'm not all the way happy, and you're afraid to speak your truth.
Mm-hmm.
What we'll do is we will try and make positive affirmations surrounding it, avoiding that dark part of ourselves that says, I don't like this person. I don't want to be here. And then instead of owning that 5% that says, I don't like this, we go on for 20 more years in a halfway full relationship. Or if you're in a job and you're like, fuck, I make good money. You know, the hours are good, but I'm not fulfilled.
Yeah.
We won't even bring out that truth, because everyone will be like, what are you talking about? You have this greatest job. So we hold it in. And what happens is we stay stuck. We never fully jump all the way into it, because we don't go through the part that's like, I'm not fulfilled.
This brings me back to the dentist, because everything's great except for there's one cavity that's underneath a bridge that I can't feel, I can't see, and if I didn't go to the dentist, I wouldn't even know about. And so now I know about it, and I'm like, okay, I got to address this. I'm thankful for everything else. Great smile, right?
You do have a great smile. Just don't open it.
I just know that thing's there, and that thing is the fear that you have for the baby, the fear that you have for switching jobs, the fear that you have for speaking your truth to your partner. Because this thing, unaddressed, it could go on I could have this thing for 10 years. But in 10 years, when that thing starts to just rot and decay, and then all of a sudden one day I bite into a apple and my mouth explodes and like maggots come out of my tooth, and a ghostly spirit and a dead scent comes, your
other teeth, it's just like you're done. Now
unaddressed.
Now you're going into surgery. You miss a show
when I could have.
You impact everybody
when
around.
I could have addressed it.
Chris can't play shows now. Now I'm involved in it.
And you know what? It's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But the sooner you address it,
exactly,
and the sooner you go through that discomfort, the sooner you can come out of the dentist, out of the relationship, out of this spot of fear, and go. The relief of addressing an issue is huge,
right?
And it's underrated.
It's underrated, and why? Here's the main part. It's the truth.
Yeah. Why is it scary though? Why is it so scary?
The truth is my teeth. Because people might leave. Okay, if I'm in a relationship, we're gonna get into conflict. I might be alone. You might get too close. You might find something out about me. You might manipulate me. I mean, there's so many reasons why we don't go into that 5%. Listen, here's another one. I saw our guy Cote Smith does his like vlogs with Griffin Colapinto, Troy Eckert, and I saw something rad, and it was the Pipe Masters.
Yeah.
And Griffin's sitting there and he's tripping a little bit, and Griffin's like, I'm having and he was so vulnerable. He spoke out. I was just having all these thoughts about failing, about not pulling it off, about not being good enough. And then he's saying these things. Now, something happens when you move this 5% of negativity from your mind and speak it words, and somebody else hears it. It's something really powerful. And Troy Eckert's sitting there, and he's like, and Troy just sits there and lets him say all of this negative stuff. And after he said it, you could feel like a relief, like he named it. He didn't push it away. And Troy said, cool, now focus on the good part. Now, if Troy would have said, if Griffin would have said, I'm having some negative thoughts, and wouldn't have like expressed them, and Troy's like, don't think about those, just be positive, it would have haunted him.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. And the reason I think this is important for anyone who's listening is as I kind of walk you through this process that happened for me, it gets a little dark. It's vulnerable. but it's the truth, right? We have to create, we don't have to do anything. My mission, at least, is to create a new idea of us being okay expressing the deepest, darkest truths and holding them and having compassion because we're for our humanity. I don't want to fix anything. I don't need, and so if I sit there, some people I go, I don't have a kid, they're going to try and fix me. Oh, bro, just think about the positive. And it's like, no, I need someone to just go, oh yeah, you're a human. No more, tell me more.
Yeah.
And I go, I don't want it. I want it. And then
or somebody to admit, oh, it is scary.
It is scary. You're like, okay, cool.
Like,
tell me more.
Instead of the placation of, dude, you're going to be fine.
You're going to be fine.
You're going to be fine. That help? I mean, it feels a little good.
Well, it's like, I already know. I know that, but it's not what's happening for me.
I know I'm going to be fine.
Okay, so I start, I have my good friend Shane. I don't know if you've met him. I went to school with him, and we are well-versed in, like, evoking out the darkest things. And I could literally say, Shane, I hate you. I never want to see you again. He'd be like, tell me more. You know what I mean? Like, he knows it has to do with me.
Yeah.
He's not taking offense to it. So Shane, he messages me and I go, you know what? I'm just in it right now and I don't want to have this kid. And he goes, and then he messages me back. He goes, just start talking about all this stuff. So I just go into this like, I don't want to have a kid. There's too much money. The end of the world's coming. When
do I get to serve?
Whatever he's doing. Yeah. And then I just do all of this stuff. And I'm like, dang, man, I'm glad that I could just say that to him. And he messages me back. He goes, oh, sounds good. Feels good to hear that part of you. Yeah. So if you're out there, make this part... Fill in the blank in your own life. Where in your own life do you hold back? And why do you hold back? And what would it be like for you to really go into your 5% of a situation that you're not fully stepping all the way into and express it? So anyways, he messaged me back. He goes, oh, it feels great to hear you say that. Because he knows I'm on my way to becoming whole.
Yeah.
It's like this guy Jordan Peterson talks about, like, people who shoot up schools aren't kids that are just angry. They're kids that aren't supported in their anger. The most dangerous man is a man who doesn't know what he's capable of because he doesn't look at it. The most powerful guy is the guy who knows what he's capable of and doesn't act on it, right? So now that I'm having all these thoughts come through, I'm saying all this dark, negative stuff about a kid. I don't want to have it. I want to be free. All this stuff. He messages me back and goes, great to hear you say that. Here's something to hang your hat on. And I go, what? And he goes, there's dads and there's non-dads out there. And, think about if you're 55 years old and you're a non-dad. And he goes, you're essentially going to war. And well, you know what I mean? You're stepping in to going to war and it's going to change you.
Yeah.
It's going to change you. And you're really good at that. And then I go, oh my God, thanks for saying that. Thanks for listening, first of all.
Yeah.
Because I got it out. And then he told me that. And then I go, God, once he listened to me, check this out. I had a vision of me being a little kid saying all that negative stuff. Like, I'm not going to be able to shoot my BB guns and go. So it was like, and he's like, yeah, exactly. That was your little boy. You're growing up. And like, so because he let me say that, I realized that. And he goes, and so you're going to change. And he's like, make no mistake. You think you're going to be a dad? You're already a dad. That baby's in there.
Well, and the crux of that part of it is you said something. Because our first reaction, I think most people's first reaction is, I'm fine.
Totally.
And that's so easy to say, and it's bullshit 99% of the time. Dude, I heard you're having a baby. Are you, like, how's it going? Fine.
Yeah. Fine.
I'm
Great.
fine.
Well, because I think the world needs to hear that. I'm really happy. And if I said, I don't want to have it, oh my God, people will try and fix me or whatever.
How much time?
Yeah, totally. So I guess the important part of this message is I can't run from my negativity in order to find my positivity all the way. I got to face my negativity and look at it and be in it and all the feelings. And that's the other thing I forgot to say is the first part of it was me speaking all this negativity, and then I stopped and breathed and I really felt the trappedness of all that. I felt like, oh my God, I'm trapped. I'm stuck. I could feel it in my body, and I breathe. And this is where we get into the techniques of breathing and just being like, okay, this is what I didn't want to feel. And so I feel it. Yeah. So I don't want to go too much, but that's pretty much it. I thought that would be beneficial, and I'm glad you asked because there's people out there right now that are like, why am I not fully happy?
Yeah.
Because you're probably not willing to express your unhappiness.
Well, I think giving yourself credit, right? Giving yourself credit because it takes courage even in the small things. It takes courage to tell your dad that, hey, like, I didn't like it at Little League games, how you used to yell at me. Or it takes courage to tell your partner, like, I feel like we're not matched up in this part of our relationship. How do we fix it? Like, taking that step, breaking through that. It's a thin wall. It's a thin glass sheet that it's like, even though it's not going to cause huge damage when you break through it, it's scary to do it.
Totally. And
it's scary to bring it up because of what you said. Oh, I might lose this person. I might lose this job. I might, but again, and just how when you unloaded your negative feelings, whether it's your friend, whether it's just writing it down, whatever, that took weight off of you, that cut an anchor that was holding you back. And so you're able to move forward. And I feel like moving forward, shedding the weight of those feelings. You've identified them, you have them, you feel them, but moving forward is that right there is the reward.
It's totally. I don't have like I'm aware of it all.
Yeah.
So now I can now I'm not at the mercy of those feelings. I dominate those feelings. I can go into, like, I can start to get scared and go, oh, that's my negativity. I already expressed it. And I'm like, oh, I'm happy. Because expression, you know what I mean? There's so many ways where we hold back. And the question is, where did we learn to hold back? You know what I mean? It's like I learned what to hold back when I was young, because if I did speak up, I wasn't heard, or I was conflict. I don't want to get too much into childhood things, but these patterns are started when we're young. Next podcast. These patterns start when we're young. And the other last thing I want to say is that we do have, like, so if I'm in a relationship, there's some things going on I don't really agree with. I'm terrified. I don't even know I'm terrified, but I don't speak up and speak my truth because I think there's going to be conflict or they might leave or whatever. Do it anyways. And when I do it anyways, like you said, it's very thin. It cracks it open. But, like, it's hard to wrap our head around that the conflict is the best thing.
Yeah.
Or that being alone is the best thing, or whatever, right? Like we have a preconceived idea that I'm going to be alone forever, or we're going to be in fights forever, or she's going to yell at me or forever. But it's not as bad as we make it out to be.
Right. Well, there is that, Larry David-ish existence that I think most people who know of him know the show, Curb Your Enthusiasm, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going like, I wish I could be more like Larry David, right? This is a person that says everything that's on his mind at any time. And an extreme, well, obviously it's a character, an extreme version of probably how he is or who he is. So I would think the knee-jerk reaction a lot of times, like, is not going to be met with thoughtfulness like a well-thought-through approach, right?
Totally, yeah.
So you've thought about this, and you've structured it in a way like you don't want to hurt the person or the organization or whatever that you're voicing your concern, speaking your truth about. So I would think, in my estimation, is keeping it simple, knowing your points, because I think a lot of times when you try to tell somebody something that's bothering you, for lack of a better term, it really can have the propensity to start spiraling.
If you stay out of blame, the way to do it is stay out of blame.
Take blame out of it.
Take the blame out of it. You know what I mean?
I'm going to write that down.
So it's like, I mean, and even inside of yourself, if there is a blame, then share that with a friend outside. For me, it's like, if I'm going to take these risks and these steps, I make it about, like, I could be like, my wife didn't, it's just like, if I'm in a job I don't like, it's like, hey, I'm not happy in this. A lot of eyes. I'm not this. Yeah. I'm not that. I'm not that. I'm not that. And then if you do want to say something about the other person, place, or thing, it's a question.
Yeah.
Do you notice this thing happening?
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you tell me you blame me, I'm like,
this
war.
job sucks. Let's go to
because
war. Of you.
Let's go to war, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a very, subtle technique. And then you have the Larry David thing. It's so crazy because all good comedy is that 5%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes it kills comedians. Comedians, for the most part, are depressed.
Yeah.
They are. They're dark. They're depressed. They're able to identify this 5%, and then they make fun of it. But it's like still that box inside of them,
Right.
You know.
If they didn't have that outlet,
I mean, South
would be
Park
bad.
saying what everybody's feeling. You know what I mean? Larry David saying what everybody's feeling, and
Yeah.
it triggers that part of you that you're too scared, not you, but that we're too scared to express.
am,
and
yeah.
so it's funny, and we identify with it. That's kind of my intention with even talking about this right now. It's like
Yeah.
giving permission. It's like enough with holding back, because you know what we're doing when we're holding back? We're betraying ourselves.
we're holding back.
We're betraying ourselves. We're holding back.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I'm glad that you're open enough and ready to share all of that with all of us, because I learned something about you. I learned something about the process of, I don't even want to call it having a baby, because that's one example of speaking your truth and getting through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? What wrapped the whole thing up in a bow yesterday when I was going through this, and it saved my life after that? Going surfing.
Oh. What if I don't surf?
Go into nature, get into action, move the body.
Yeah.
And I did. I didn't want to. I was just like, I was like talking to my friend. I was just like, I want to go lay in bed or lay on the couch and put on YouTube. I was like, you do this all the time. And I got in the water and surf. I got away from the screen. And I was just like, this stuff came through.
Yes.
So cool.
So we've got a question.
Isn't it okay to ask Troy stuff on the thing? Or are you going to cut that out?
What? There's
Okay.
no one else in the room.
What? Huh?
We have an amazing technical director, producer. He knows how to plug all this stuff in. He makes us look really good.
He does.
And handsome. Troy, I see you. I feel you. You're right behind me over my left shoulder.
Troy
Unseen
Page.
by the outside world, but I
Troy
feel
Page.
you. We feel you.
Handpan, didgeridoo, extraordinaire. I'm trying to get him to play keyboards.
Yeah, and that's
He's like, I don't play
That's
keyboards.
interesting.
I'm
Like,
yes, you do.
he does the most highest tech stuff in
Yeah.
here with the microphones and cameras, but then how he relaxes is the lowest tech version of nope. You don't plug in a handpan.
No, you don't.
You don't plug in a didge.
No. Oh, that's
it's
true.
one thing,
That's true.
and you blow through it a certain way,
Yes.
and I love that. I love that people can have this duality of that.
Yeah,
right?
and like if I was as good as Troy at handpan, I'd be like, hey, my name's Brandon. I'm good at handpan. You know what I
Right.
mean? I didn't even know. I went on a trip with this guy up to Mammoth. I turn around, he starts playing it like a wizard.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, you should be bragging about yourself a little bit more.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Tell
he's
the
definitely
world.
going to edit this part out.
Okay, we like to answer questions.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah. I would love for you to read it. So this is a question that was submitted via the @PortalEXP Instagram account.
That's
A
correct.
DM. Somebody slid into our DMs. And it's not just about before, because we want more questions. We want more and more questions. We want to talk about what people out there want to talk about, obviously. So slide us a DM or a comment under the video, and we will try to get to that question. So
Yeah, so go to our Instagram page,
@Portal
EXP,
EXP,
yeah,
yeah.
and then put it in the DMs. Let's do you want to do the addiction one, or because we already talked about prayer and spirituality.
yeah, let's do this question you have. I mean, this is obviously a huge question, so I think it's important to try to.
Wait, what? Brandon, are you happy you're having a kid?
I texted you that yesterday. No, I've you read me this question right before we went
Right.
live. So
Coming into focus.
okay, this is a question we're going to answer. This is a segment of the show, and we're going to try to do it in a tight and concise way.
Oh,
because
jeez.
this is a question that you could go on for years and years and years about.
We
so
should save
the
this one.
challenge for us is to, and I don't even want to say answer this question, but address this question.
Okay.
In the I have no training.
Yes.
I have no training
Well, you have experience.
other than life,
you have experience. You have experience.
tons of experience, work experience.
Yeah. So no
Question
training.
answering experience.
This is from Coming Into Focus.
'Kay.
He slid into our DMs. Yes. Is addiction a disease? Is it genetic? Is it a spiritual problem? A way to cope with life's pains? Is it all of them? Is it none of them? Doesn't matter what you call it.
Brandon, have you ever had any experience with addiction?
Just a little.
Yes.
Just a little.
And I have had a little as well. So let me go first from a layman's perspective.
Great.
Yes, addiction is a disease. If it wasn't a disease, it would be so easy not to be addicted.
Right.
You just stop.
You just stop.
And it's like I see it as the same thing as a cancer or like some gnarly disease that you can get. Imagine if you got cancer and you're like, no, I don't want cancer anymore. I'm going to stop.
Right.
It's equally hard to fight. It takes. I don't know the numbers. It's taken just as many of my friends' lives as cancer has, addiction has.
Right.
In one form, whether it was overdose or suicide or an accident,
or just even took them out and they're still alive. We don't know where they are.
Exactly. Yeah. So, to me, it's wild to me that even has to be a question. It should just be fact.
Right.
Addiction is a disease. Knowing if you got cancer, no one's gonna be like, dude, what are you doing? You're weak. You got cancer. What are you doing? You're addicted to pills. You're weak. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing, in my opinion, and from what I've experienced, from what I've seen. So I guess the simple answer is yes.
Yes.
Addiction is a disease.
Yes.
And the word addiction, obviously, we're talking about addiction to drugs, addiction to
something outside of yourself,
self-mutilation, addiction to whatever.
Yeah.
Like we say, like, I'm addicted to coffee. It's like, I'm not really.
Right.
I love it.
Right.
I'm addicted to being positive.
Right.
That's not a disease.
Yeah.
But these things, they are a disease.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you agree?
100%. I think is well said. I think the word disease, dis-ease. It's a dis-ease. It's an uneasiness.
Okay.
Whether it's cancer.
I thought that was a rap lyric you were talking about. Dis-ease.
Addiction is, do you wake up and say, I'm not going to do this today, and you do it anyways?
Yeah.
Do you wake up and say, I'm not going to get on Instagram today, and then you're fucking on for 3 hours? Do you get up and say, I'm not going to eat that food today, and then you eat it? Do you get up today and say, I'm not going to text that ex-girlfriend because I need it?
Wait, are you talking about me right now?
No. No, I mean, for this me, right? So yeah, addiction is, a disease. And here's the cool part about like addiction. There's like, so you have cancer, you have these like medical.
Oh my, I just thought of something.
Go.
What do you do when you have a disease? You get treated for it.
Right.
What do you do when you're addicted to heroin, cocaine, crack? You go to treatment.
Yes, exactly. It's the same thing.
Treatment.
Yes.
Treating the disease.
Right. Okay. So yeah, totally. So just to know if you are, but no one can tell you if you're an addict. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Because it's like you have to decide yourself. That's like the first thing is like
you told me that a long time ago, and that stuck with me.
I was like, yeah, you are an addict, man. And
No, you said.
I said I am. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to go. We should do a whole podcast on this because
I'm sure
some
we'll be
people
talking about this more.
Some people will say addiction is just this thing you're screwed for the rest of your life. That's not my experience. My experience is I went in and we talked about it in the last one. I did a bunch of work on myself. I don't have the impulse to use things in that way. There are certain things that my body. This is the next question. Is it genetic? Right? Like, okay, so if my mom eats a Vicodin, she's like, oh my God, I feel nauseous. If I eat a Vicodin, I'm like, where's the bottle?
I feel great.
Do you know what I mean?
Party.
So we do have things that really get us. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, it was like I have to stay away from opiates. Cocaine. I want to do more of that stuff or whatever. So I have to be really aware because when I start those things, like literally, my body wants more of those things. So as far as the genetic thing, I wouldn't say that, but it's like it's an allergy they talk about. Like why do some people eat peanut butter and they swell up and other people don't?
Well, even if it is genetic, scientifically, wouldn't that be kind of a blame mechanism? Well,
it is.
It's not my fault. My freaking parents got me off.
So it's okay to give a little bit of credit to it. It's not everything. And it says it is a spiritual problem. That is where I get into it because I had a lot of shame in my life from when I was young. Mm-hmm. And so what I would do is I would just feel alone in that, and I can't fix that shame myself, and I would just keep using. I would live out my shame.
Yeah.
I was trying to run from it.
I remember.
You remember? You were, you were there.
I remember.
Is it a way to cope with life's pains? 100%.
Oh, it's a giant Band-Aid
Yeah.
that feels great to put on,
Yeah.
but taking it off sucks.
Right. So then the work would
It's
be
like less of a Band-Aid. It's more of like a time warp. You're like, oh, I feel horrible. Let me do something. And then the horrible feeling is still there. It's just, you just put it like in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Pac-Man when he's like coming to eat the,
exactly.
you know, like, oh, like if I just get that, oh, I got that thing, I'm good.
And it even gets worse.
Yeah, and the ghost keeps chasing you.
The ghost keeps but it gets worse. If there's a problem, I don't want to deal with it. I start getting loaded. I push it away. That problem keeps getting worse.
This goes back to addressing the feeling, addressing the cavity.
Exactly. So we don't want to look at it. Is it all of them? Yes, I would say it's a little bit of all. It's a disease. Here's something cool. If you do have an addiction, like an addiction to food or drugs or alcohol or porn or whatever it is,
Why'd you look up when you said that?
The solution to an addiction, like, so for instance, I was addicted to opiates really bad. The solution to that didn't just bring me back to ground zero. Whereas if you had cancer, you get the treatment and you come back just to normal. The awesome part about addiction is that if you get treatment for it, you do some self-searching, you get connected to some spirituality. My solution brought me higher than I was before I started.
Right.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
I love that.
Does it matter what you call it? I don't think it really matters. I think it actually, no, it doesn't, and it'll keep you stuck in it. And when you're trying to, is it a disease? Is it not? Is it this? It's just keeping you from the problem. The main thing is I use things outside of myself because I don't want to feel what's happening inside of myself.
Yeah.
So the work is to set a boundary, whatever I have to do, go to treatment or lock myself down or tell on myself and like let everybody know what happened so that I'm like, okay, I'm not alone in this. And then now I got to feel what's happening for me, right? And then the other thing is to be really honest with myself. You know what I mean? I've had, for 12 years, you know, I did a lot of years absence. I've had a few ups and downs where I had to like really get on, like I was delusional and I had to get honest with myself. Hey, this thing is not working out for me. Just the main thing is because addiction is delusion. We believe our own lies.
Right.
You said it when you stopped drinking a long time ago and then you're like, I'm done and then your mind convinced you it was okay to go to happy hour.
Yeah.
It's like a delusion, you know? Happened to me a million times.
Yeah. Well,
Anyways,
I think that was a great answer to that question. I mean, I'm not trying to toot our own horn. We're not scientists.
We're not doctors.
We're not doctors.
We're not gurus. We surf. We're in a band. We are.
But we've both been addicted to things. We've both overcome addictions to things. We both are still addicted to things.
Yes, totally.
And we still are slightly have semblances of disease known as addiction.
Yeah, so the bottom line is if you're questioning if you have a problem, ask yourself this. Do you say you're not going to do it and then do it? Are your emotions unmanageable and is your life unmanageable? Can you not pay your bills? Can you not show up on time? Can you not follow through with your accountability? And is your emotional inside unmanageable, right? So am I unmanageable?
The checklist.
That's a good little checklist. Don't worry about what it is. You might want to find, for me, are a lot of people with big addiction problems. They get into meditation, spirituality, breathing, all the kind of stuff we're trying to promote here too.
Yeah. All right. So put a pin on it. Help podcast.
Boom. Oh yeah. Okay. So help H37P ! 501c3 supported by Portal. And what help does is we raise money in order to send people to awesome events, workshops, one-on-one sessions so they can better themselves. Chris Cote.
Hi, Brandon.
Brandon Parkhurst, sending you guys love.